Assalamu alaikum, this is Brother Adil. As the days of Eid fast approaches, many of you will probably be thinking about Udhiyyah, otherwise also known as Qurbani. In this short video, we will be discussing both the historical events that led to this and also the actual ritual itself. So as we explore the Qur'an to see what it actually says about the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, we first initially come across the verse which talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam sincerely making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an offspring. What can we learn from this? We can learn that one has to humble oneself in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to attain and gain what they want. And it only can be attained sincerely when one focuses their intention truly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their dua. In a subsequent verse, we're informed of a dream. What does this dream consist of? It consists of Ibrahim alayhi salam having a vision where he's sacrificing his son. From this we gather and realize that Ibrahim alayhi salam is actually being obligated to sacrifice the very son that he was just given. What does that entail? Think about the emotions, think about the kind of difficulty that Ibrahim alayhi salam would have felt. But of course, being a prophet, he did exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to do and did it sincerely in the most best and possible manner. In this, there's a lesson for us that whenever we go through a situation or a scenario where we feel that we're being asked something that we may not want, but it's something that Allah wants from us, then we do what Allah wants and we do it with sincerity. And in the following verse, we're given information about a beautiful discourse that takes place between Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismaeel alayhi salam. What is this discourse about? Ibrahim alayhi salam is informing his son about the dream that he's had. And Ismaeel alayhi salam responds by informing his father about continuing on his path of sincerity. Sincerity of what? Sincerity of sacrifice. So in the last verse that we're going to look at today, we basically realize that Ibrahim alayhi salam is instructed by God to stop. To stop what? To stop literally sacrificing his son. So what we learn from this is that sometimes on occasions, we as human beings feel that our test is something, but in actual fact, the test is something else. I'll give you an example. With Eid fast approaching, we may have a young family, maybe a young mother or a young father who have had a child who may well be unwell or teething, and as a result of that, they've had a sleepless night, barely just catching Fajr. On a night where maybe other friends and family members are praying Tahajjud and many other Nafil prayers. Now they may feel as if they've failed this test, but in reality, is their test not to actually fulfill the needs of the child? So with this, we realize and understand that often in life, we are portrayed with this scenario in a situation where we may feel that a test is something, but actually Allah wants something else from us. So what's the point of sincerity in this? The point of sincerity is that you embrace what Allah wants from you and you do it with sincerity. And now let's answer the commonly asked questions in relation to how the Udhiyyah, otherwise known as the Qurbani, is to be performed. Is Udhiyyah compulsory on children who have not attained puberty? No, the Udhiyyah is not compulsory upon children who have not yet attained puberty. Is Udhiyyah compulsory on all adults? Udhiyyah is compulsory on all sane and wealthy adults. Generally speaking, you will be considered wealthy if you pay your zakat on a yearly basis. Thus, you will also be performing your Qurbani this year. What if you're traveling during this time? If you are considered a traveler, which would usually be if you were shortening your prayer, then you would not be required to perform your Qurbani. When should the Udhiyyah sacrifice be made? The Udhiyyah sacrifice should be made between the 10th to the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, with the earlier, i.e. the 10th of Dhul Hijjah being preferred. One other point to remember is that the Udhiyyah, i.e. the sacrifice, should be made after the Eid prayer, not from the perspective of where you're located, but from the perspective of where the sacrifice is being made. Therefore, if you are giving your money to a charity who's going to make Qurbani on your behalf, just make sure that this is followed. Can I pay on behalf of my family? Every individual must perform the Udhiyyah by themselves. This means that if you decide that you want to pay on behalf of someone without their knowledge, this will not be acceptable. However, if, say for example, your wife gives you money to go and perform her Udhiyyah, then in that situation you are effectively acting as an agent, just like in a situation where you give the money to the charity. This would be considered okay. Can any animal be sacrificed? No, the animal must either be one sheep, one goat, or a seventh of a cow, or alternatively a seventh of a camel. In addition to this, the animal should be free of defect. If you want to know greater detail of what this actually entails, feel free to visit theinspiration.com, where I have written an article which has a detailed response to this particular question. What if I've missed Udhiyyah in the past when it was compulsory upon me? In such a situation, you would pay the monetary value of the Qurbani that you had missed in the past to an individual who is considered poor. Generally speaking, someone who qualifies to receive zakat is understood to be poor. Do I need to abstain from cutting my hair and nails prior to the sacrifice? This is actually not an obligation, but rather a recommendation from the beginning of Dhul Hijjah to the day of your sacrifice, which is generally, as we mentioned, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. So if you do happen to cut your nails having intended that you were not doing it, or trim your hair if you were not intending on doing it, don't worry, your Qurbani is still valid. Can I not just give the monetary amount of the animal to any charitable cause instead of the sacrifice itself? No, because the whole purpose of this particular charity is that it's actually spent on the sacrificing of the animal. Therefore, to generally give sadaqah or general charity would not suffice this part of the sacrifice. Furthermore, one of the wisdoms of sacrificing the animal is that it's given to the poor. Now, many people in these parts of the lands and countries are malnourished, and therefore would benefit in partaking in having the meat and enjoying this as part of their festivity. How should I distribute my Qurbani? If you're doing your Qurbani locally, then distribute it into thirds, meaning 1/3 for yourself, 1/3 for your relatives, and 1/3 for the poor. I hope this video was of benefit for you. I actually have some more bonus recommended actions for you to do. So please feel free to visit The Inspiration, where my article explores this particular topic further. So, where will you be doing your Qurbani? Please tell us in the comments below.